That's right. Ghost Bear, bitches. What a huge overtime win tonight. Oh, it was amazing. Bill Leifholtz and Caleb Weiler are both here to talk about it, and that is correct. We added a new member to the Bitterbirds flock. His name is Bill Leifholtz, another member of the sports network fraternity that we built here on the Bitterbirds. So this is now our fourth sports network member. Bill is currently writing for Along the Boards for the Florida Panthers, and if you want, give him a follow. Basis718, that's his Twitter handle. He knows a lot about hockey. He knows about whipping it around the cycle.
Oh, definitely. Glad to be here. Glad to join the Bitterbirds and talk some Flyers hockey.
Yeah, so we're going to get right into this game tonight. Ghost Bear with an amazing play. Oh, my God. We did a show on this man a couple weeks ago talking about how awesome he is, and he just further proves his awesomeness. Again, another great play tonight. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. My heart is still pounding from that. The most unbelievable part of that play was that he gloved it with his hand and had the smarts to pass it with his stick so not to get called with the hand pass in the zone. So he was playing a great game tonight, capped it off with that huge overtime assist.
Yeah, Ghost Bear's just clutch in overtime. I mean, you can rely on him to make the big plays, whether they win or lose. He's always there. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we call him Ghost Bear. He's just a beast of a bear, beast of a man, and he doesn't shy away from the big moments, even though his name is Ghost. I still don't understand that nickname, but it sounds cool. It sounds cool. All right, moving on. All right, just 8 days ago, the Flyers were 3 points out of a playoff berth, but by Easter Sunday, they had a 68.2% chance of making the postseason, and obviously those odds improved tonight with the overtime winner. The Detroit Red Wings, however, they did win tonight, beat the Buffalo Sabres, squeaked out a win. The Sabres almost came back there at the end, scored a pair of short, empty, what do you call it? They fucking took their goalie out, and they scored 2 goals. That's what happened. And but they couldn't score a third one. So when we talked about it on the show last week, we wanted the Flyers to get 6 points out of the 4 games that they had. And had a great opportunity at 6, had they not squandered that 2-goal lead late in regulation there against Columbus. But overall thoughts on last week's proceedings?
Last week was definitely frustrating. They came out on fire, like we said, against the Islanders. Then they came back, and they had that huge letdown game. 1 minute and 4 seconds to go, let up 1 goal on a pretty questionable call. That could have been called a high stick, and that would have just squandered any comeback attempt that Columbus would have had. In addition to that, they let up another goal, and the Flyers have just been awful 6-on-5 all year. So that's something that they need to work on moving forward if they're going to have to play a man down in those situations. But overall, they got 5 points out of the 8 that they could have gotten last week, and I think the win tonight really proved that they're going to be a strong team going into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. It was a rough road trip. It's tough being away, traveling all that time. But like you said, the Islanders game was great. Even Brandon Manning got in on the scoring, like his first NHL goal this night. Columbus game was terrible. Simmons with the icing and the collapse. I mean, Mason, I think, made 53 saves.
Yeah.
And then that happens, collapse. Arizona game, though, that was really frustrating.
Yeah, that was definitely the biggest frustrating game of the week because, Arizona's down on their luck. I think before that they only scored like 2 or 3 goals in the games leading up to that. And so it was really just frustrating for the Flyers to go in and lose that game, which they easily could have won had they come out on fire.
Yeah. All right. We'll get into a little bit more in depth on last week's games a little bit later in the show, but I want to talk a little bit more about Steve Mason. Obviously, Michael Neuwirth went down, lower body injury. We were a little bit concerned about Mason coming in, having to fill in, but he was a stud muffin during that road trip last week, posting a 93.6% save percentage, 1.75 goals against average. So he was pretty stellar last week, won another game tonight. So, playing fairly well.
Yeah, there's no other word to describe Steve Mason but stud muffin right now. He's on fire. So you hit it right on the head there. You know, he came into tonight's game over the last 3 or 4 games on that road trip, .955 save percentage. To put that into perspective, right now the league average is probably hovering around 92%, and Mason was sitting at almost 96%. He's just on fire right now. I'm glad they're running him because you don't want to lose that mojo that he's got going on right
Yeah, he's been great for the Flyers. Stepping in with Neuwirth down. I mean, Neuwirth and him were kind of 1A, 1B tandem going, and Mason's just been carrying the load with Neuwirth out. I think he's given up just 9 goals over the past 5 games. That's impressive. And for a team with a subpar defensive core, even with one of their top defensemen, Michael Del Zotto, still out, he's come up big.
Yeah, I agree. We just talked about Mason. So I want you guys to name a Flyer who you thought shined last week. Maybe a name that not too many people might be talking about.
All right, so I've been going through this in my head. You know, 2 players right now, Michael Raffl, Nick Cousins, both coming out of nowhere. You know, Michael Raffl coming into this year, he started off slow production-wise, but his possession stats have been huge all year. He's just been killing it there, and now he's starting to produce. On the other hand, Nick Cousins has come up from the AHL. When they called him up in 38 games, he had 38 points, so he was killing it. And if you look right now, Scott Lawton is riding the twine, you know, or the pine, rather. He's not scoring, so hence he's riding the pine. And so Nick Cousins is still in. So I think it's really a testament to see Nick Cousins still in the lineup, and I think he's just going to get better and better. So I think he's going to be a good third-line center moving forward for the Flyers.
Yeah, I agree. They've both been on fire. I mean, Nick Cousins is electric, and he gets under the skin of the opponents, and Michael Raffl's great on the forecheck. He just creates so much room out there. I would have to say my 2 Flyers have impressed me. It's my boy Braden Shen. He's been super productive lately. He's been probably one of the most consistent Flyers of late. And also Radko Gudas. I mean, he did have a questionable hit against Arizona. I mean, it was more questionable. Shouldn't have hit Shane Doan like that in the boards, but he's been producing. Before a couple weeks ago, he had no goals this season. He's had 5 since then, and he's been jumping up on the play, producing offensive chances.
Yeah,
And he's been disciplined too, which is not usually like him. I mean, outside Arizona hit, but he's stepped it up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Totally agree with everything you're saying. And I got to give you because I was all that, but I think right now he's going to be a huge core player. So I definitely have to give Bill props because he was like, don't trade Shen. He's going to be awesome.
That's right.
All right. I want to talk about this because over the weekend I bought some raffle tickets, and guess what I won? I won a trip to the Stanley Cup Finals. So you know what that means? You know what that means, gentlemen? We are going to the Stanley Cup Finals, and I also won some tickets for a lifetime supply of the Greek yogurt, Goudas. So I got some Greek yogurt as well. Goudas Greek yogurt. So I won some raffle tickets. I got tickets booked for the Stanley Cup Finals, and I got a bunch of Greek yogurt. Bill knows, man. I love my yogurt. Every day I bring that shit into work. You know, so it's an ongoing struggle with my weight. So I eat a lot of yogurt, and for whatever reason, I'm still a fat ass.
Keep eating the yogurt.
It's not working. Oh, man. All right. Let's delve more into that loss against the Blue Jackets. Flyers, obviously lost a 2-goal lead. Last 64 seconds of the game. Cam Atkinson's game tire came 8 seconds left. Just a terrible goal. We had 3 Columbus players and just 1 defenseman stationed in front of the net. What are your guys' thoughts on that collapse?
Yeah, I really don't look at that as an overall collapse because the Flyers were just outplayed that entire game. They definitely got lucky with the 2 goals. I believe Giroux scored 1, and if I'm remembering correctly, Goudas scored the other from the point. And I really just think that they got really lucky with those. Mason saved, like Bill said earlier, 53 shots, and I think the collapse was just a long time coming into that game. while definitely frustrating, at least they were able to squeak out a point, and Mason was able to keep them in that game.
That's a good point. It could have been worse. I mean, he did face so many shots, and collapse also happened with Wayne Simmons. He iced the puck. I mean, he could have passed it, just taken out his own, but he just went for the empty net, just tried to finish it off, and the icing led to an offensive face-off win for the Blue Jackets, and so what happened. Two games.
Caleb, you want to elaborate on that? That was my next topic here on the sheet. Talk about that. Going for the net there for Simmons.
Yeah, that was definitely frustrating. Like Bill pointed out, he could have passed that. He could have skated up the net. And the most frustrating thing about that is after the icing was called, he just looked at his teammates and, shrugged. And while at the time I laughed, I'll admit that I laughed, but it was way beyond frustrating that they scored on the ensuing faceoff. And so I think Simmons, he scored tonight. He's back on the right track, but he definitely should have done that. And I think he definitely got talked to either by Giroux or the coaches in regards to his actions that game.
Yeah, Bill.
But like you said, they scored those 2 goals. They got the first 2 goals. They let up that third goal, making it 2-1, letting the other team back into the game. But other than that, they definitely played a solid game, and they deserved the win tonight.
Yeah, I agree. The Flyers got off to a great start against the Jets. Shen had a wraparound attempt that was nearly in. They had good pressure early on, first 5 minutes. Voracek drew a penalty too, but power play couldn't convert. What a surprise. Late and awful, especially the first unit. But, I think it got to them down the stretch in the game. They started losing a little energy, but Gostisbehere's shot off the crossbar and the work of probably the bottom 2 lines really got the team energized going into overtime.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. That third line came out. They busted. They went up and down the ice. They put scoring chances on net. And I think after that, going into the overtime, the Flyers just really played up to the level that they needed to in order to win that game.
Yeah, huge sense of urgency there. And, huge 2 points, obviously. Avoided the shootout, something that Steve Mason is 1-6 on this year. And it's actually led to some debate about whether or not – I actually saw this in a post today – debate whether or not to have Stolarz come in the game for Mason to take care of shootout duties. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because that seems a little silly to me to have a guy that's been cold on the bench all game long and just thrust into that sort of situation. But then again, I'm not really a hockey guy, so I'll let you guys answer that.
Yeah, I think even though you don't know too much about hockey, like you just said, you definitely hit the nail right on the head.
Look at me.
I know, that beautiful. I couldn't even said it better myself. And I think moving forward, the Flyers just need to ride Mason even into the shootouts. You don't take that guy off the bench and put him in for a 3-round shootout. Like, that would just be ridiculous and an awful, awful idea.
I fully agree. I mean, Stolarz hasn't even played an NHL game yet. And you want to take him off the bench and put him in right away against the opposing team's most talented players. That's crazy. I mean, you keep Mason in. I wouldn't fully blame the shootouts on Mason either. The shooters haven't been great either. In the last shootout against Columbus, I think he made 4 out of 5 saves. So it's not fully him. I mean, yeah, he's bad, but it's the shooters too. They got to convert.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the other games last week. Let's start with the 4-2 win against Colorado. They had just squandered that 2-goal lead against Columbus, and you bounce back by rallying against the Avalanche. I thought that was a pretty impressive win considering the circumstances there.
Yeah, it definitely shows the resiliency of the Flyers. They came back, they won that game, and I think that's a game you have to win because the Avalanche are missing their 2 best players in Duchesne and McKinnon. You can argue that they still have Landeskog. Varlamov still in his head all game. They still have some key pieces in Barry on the defensive line. But other than that, the Flyers are relatively healthy going into that game. That is a must-win game, and they rallied behind, Mason, who was playing really well that game, and pulled out the win.
Yeah, they came up big. Especially Gudas and Giroux both scoring 19 seconds there. That was huge, and certainly momentum shift for the Flyers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, there were some shenanigans. touched on it briefly earlier in the show. Shenanigans in the 2-1 loss to the Coyotes. You had Mr. Greek Yogurt himself, Radko Gudas, catch Coyotes captain Shane Doan with an elbow, landed him headfirst into the boards. Then you had Martin Hansel send Claude Giroux into the sideboards, which left him a little woozy there. Wayne Simmons then received a 10-minute misconduct for jumping Hansel after the hit. So just briefly touch on the shenanigans. What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, I think the problem with those games against teams like the Jets and the Coyotes is they have nothing to play for right now. So, if they hit the other team's captain into the boards and knock him out, okay, you get suspended, but it's not really going to hurt your team in the long run because you're not going to make the playoffs anyway. I really think Gudas could have avoided Doan on that secondary hit. I think the first hit was fine, but once he hit him on the boards, and that's what really caused Doan to get all frazzled over there, I think that's what really, really looked bad on Gudas' part. And then Hansel comes out, he hits Giroux from behind. It wasn't totally dangerous, but I think the way Giroux went into the boards, it really hurt him. And Simmons really needs to be careful because he got 2 game misconducts earlier in the year. If he gets a third, he's going to be suspended. So he really needs to be careful. I know you want to stand up for your captain, but really you need to put the team before yourself in that situation.
That's true. I think you both nailed it. Adrian with the shenanigans, yes, they were shenanigans. And Gudas' hit, I mean, I hate seeing stuff like that. The first hit, you're right, Caleb. It was fine, but the way he followed in and just leaned into his head and gave him an extra shot like that. I mean, I hate seeing that, especially Shane Doan, who's been in the league forever. That hit just can't be made. And I don't think with Giroux going into the boards with Hansel, I don't think it was necessarily dirty, but it looked really bad. I'm glad Giroux's okay. Look, he had a huge game tonight, winning in overtime. But I love the response from the Flyers right after they see their captain down. It was emotional. Simmons jumping in there. I mean, that's his captain. That's his teammate. Guys who travel with, they're brothers. And I love the response. I mean, you don't always, years past with the Flyers, you didn't see that as much, especially last year. But this year, the team's been rallying around each other, and I think that shows they're a tight-knit group.
Mm-hmm. And Caleb, you referenced earlier about how frustrating that loss to Arizona was. You emphasize that point a little bit for the listeners?
Yeah, I think going into that game, you just came off a big win, a big comeback win against the Avalanche. You have the momentum going into the Arizona game, and you just lay out a dud. I think they scored 1 goal within the last minute or so. Really just frustrating, but you do have to give credit to Mike Smith. He was injured for a pretty decent amount of time, but he came back. He's been standing on his head, and I know this because I have him in fantasy hockey. So, it doesn't hurt me too much, but as a Flyers fan, it hurt my heart. So Mike Smith has been standing on his head, but the Flyers really needed to come out and win that game, and they just didn't, and that's where the issues lie.
Smith did have a great game, and the thing about Smith is that he's just so good handling the puck, and I think that threw the Flyers off. He just comes right out, plays up the middle, goes behind the net, everything. He's great with it, and he's a weapon. So he had a great game. I think he got a little rattled, too. I think he might have been bumped into or something, and was diving, flopping around, but it's good to see that. I mean, it's a chippy game, and he's clutch like Mason's been, so.
Yeah, Mike Smith, king of the dives, Anybody gets close to him, he goes flopping. And as soon as they scored that goal, you saw how frustrated he was, too. So he was standing on his head all game, but, he was trying to draw calls at the end of that game as well.
Oh, so a ferocious puck handler. There's a Russian that used to play goalie for us that could use some tips, Mr. Brizgalov. Being a Ukrainian, I hate Russians, and when we brought in Ilya Brizgalov, I didn't like it too much, even though I knew nothing about him. And then just my instincts proved to be true. There's only like 2 things I don't hate about Russia. I don't hate Maria Sharapova. I mean, I don't think you can hate her. And then their vodka's pretty good. So those are the only 2 things. But other than that, I can't stand Russia. I can't stand Vladimir Putin, and I definitely can't stand Ilya Brizgalov. Oh God.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you don't like Evgeny Medvedev either.
No.
Oh man. Yeah, Brizgalov was a mistake.
Oh man. Yeah, that. Okay. To start the week, we kick-started the road trip off, very well. 4-1 win against the Islanders. So currently, they're 2 points behind the Isles for the 7th spot in the Eastern Conference. The Isles do have a game in hand, but that game earlier this week on Monday, great win there, 4-1, bashing.
Yeah, that was a huge game. It's definitely going to be huge going forward because when the Flyers were scheduled to play the Islanders a couple months ago and we hit that snowstorm, that game got rescheduled until after the regular season. So there's a pretty big chance that the Flyers and Islanders game after the season, the last game of the year, is going to, position them either into the playoffs or have a really big seeding outcome. So the Flyers could end up beating the Islanders, come into the 7th seed, and play a much more favorable matchup against the Lightning or the Panthers as opposed to the Capitals, who I think are just going to run through everybody. So if the Flyers can match up against a team in the Atlantic, that's definitely going to help out. And we saw that the Flyers can beat the Islanders in a pretty sufficient fashion.
Yeah, I think that game is going to be huge. Just like you said, it's going to definitely carry a lot of weight. The Islanders, though, they haven't been as great lately. I think a large part is Yaroslav Halak's been out injured, and Thomas Greiss has been good, but he's a backup goalie, and going down the stretch, that's going to be tough on him, to have great games.
Yeah, not every team can be as fortunate as us and have a 1A and 1B, could have said a couple of years ago. So we are definitely lucky right now to have Neuwirth and Mason and an AHL All-Star in Stolars sitting on the bench just in case we need him.
Yeah. Now, just to ask you guys real quick, you guys just talked about, Washington's going to breeze through the playoffs. Well, they are a squad that tends to kind of choke in the postseason. Obviously, you do want to get the 7 seed as opposed to the 8 seed, but is there really that huge of a difference between playing the Capitals and, say, the Lightning?
I would say so, only because right now the Capitals are doing it. You can't really, gauge the talent level of a goalie off of his team stat, but Braden Holtby has yet to lose 10 games in regulation this season. They only have less than 10 games to go, so that is just mind-blowing. So I think the Caps team this year is a totally different year. They picked up Justin Williams, who's a proven Stanley Cup contender. They have Evgeny Kuznetsov in the middle of a breakout year. He's going to be a stud. They have Ovechkin. They have Backstrom. They have Carlson, who's killing it on the back end. So right now they're going to be a really hard team to beat, and I think they're going to shake that playoff issues. Like you said, they have the issues choking, but I think they're going to shake that this year.
Yeah. Like you said about Mike Smith, you have him in fantasy. I had Braden Holtby in fantasy, so I definitely paid attention to him, and I loved him. But I won't love him in the playoffs. We face him. I don't want the Flyers to face the Capitals because, like you said, they have so much depth. They've added Oshie, Williams. But I would say you don't really. They don't have a choice. But the Panthers and the Lightning are going to be scary as well. The Lightning made a deep run last year, and they have another stellar goalie in Ben Bishop. And the Panthers have shown that they're a completely different team this year with Barkov, Jágr, Huberdeau. That top line, Vincent Trocheck, second line, they've been great. So, it's going to be tough for the Flyers if they make the playoffs.
Yeah. Now, you know what I thought of when you said the Lightning, and I should have brought this up to introduce you, because people have no idea how smart you are. You went through the whole NHL playoffs last year without getting anything wrong besides the Stanley Cup final. You're in the running for NHL.com's like sweepstakes. You almost won the whole damn thing. You almost went perfect. That's incredible. It's like It's almost like me getting the whole NCAA tournament right. Unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah, it was surprising. I was happy about it. I think I was tied for 7th in the world heading into the final, but I picked the Lightning instead of the Blackhawks. Yeah, screwed over my chances, but it was pretty cool.
You got everything right. It's insane. That's insane. You got every team right. Oh my! I couldn't believe it. Like you showed me the bracket, and then you just kept getting shit right, and then everything was right. It was unbelievable.
I think all but 2 had the right game amount too. So you had to pick say the Rangers in 6 or whatever too.
Yeah. So that's why you're tied for 7.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, but still, that incredible. It really was. And, yeah, I mean, kudos. Big
It
time.
won't happen again, though. Probably not.
I believe in you, Bill.
Oh, man. All right. Last kind of topic here before we head off. So who do we have this week? We got the Capitals, the aforementioned Washington Capitals. We got the Penguins again, and the Senators coming up for the rest of the week. That closes out, a 4-game week again for the Flyers. We got Detroit tied with us right now for the 8th and final playoff spot, but the Flyers do have a game in hand. Detroit travels to Montreal. They collide with Minnesota at home and finishes the week in Toronto on Saturday. So, that's a tough 3-game stretch for Philly. Capitals, Penguins, Sens. Hey.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a difficult week. We have the Capitals coming up, and that's going to be a Wednesday night rivalry night. It's going to be big, but the Capitals really don't have anything to play for right now. They already clinched home ice advantage throughout the entire playoffs, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them sit some of their key players, if we saw their backup start. So the Flyers have a good chance rolling into Wednesday night, but post-Wednesday, the last 6 games of the year are all back-to-backs. So they're going to play, let me just pull it up right here, Penguins and Red Wings back-to-back, and then they're going to play the I'm sorry, that was incorrect. They're going to play the Senators and Penguins back-to-back, then they're going to play the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs back-to-back, and then the Penguins and the Islanders back-to-back to finish out the year. I believe it's something like 6 games in 8 days, and it's going to be really, really difficult for the Flyers moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, like you said, Washington might rest some of their players, especially Holtby, so there might be a Grubauer sighting. But it's going to be tough. At least it's at home. They're playing against Washington. The only downside to that, another downside to that game is you have to hear Pierre McGuire in the national broadcast. I can't stand it. But this weekend's back-to-back, Ottawa, I would think you might see Anthony Stolarz that game. I mean, Ottawa really – it's nothing to play for, and it's going to be a back-to-back with Pittsburgh, and that's. I mean, I'd rather have Pittsburgh at the beginning of the back-to-back than go and playing. They're lights out right now. So
yeah, it's definitely going to be really hard going into the Penguins. Two games left against the Penguins. They're on fire right now. So those are definitely going to be tough games. I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head. We're going to see Stolarz at some point within these big stretch of games coming up.
Yeah, that was
the Penguins.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
They don't have Malkin, too. I think they're 7-1 without him. Just wanted to add that. That's crazy.
A little Trogs nugget nectar of the day. Right there, the light bulbs. I use that line on our Eagles show, so it's not original or anything. But but yeah, I love giving out plugs to beer companies that don't sponsor us. Yeah, so moving on, you just touched on Stolarz. That was going to be my next question. How many starts is he going to see for the rest of the year with all those back-to-backs coming up? And I like that point that Caleb made with Washington already clinching the President's Trophy. They're probably going to come out a little flat then in their next game. They already got everything wrapped up. They're going to be hungover. They're going to be partying tonight. Strippers are going to be everywhere. Dollar bills. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be partying hard tonight. They're going to be hungover. They're not going to want to play a game on Wednesday. We're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see the Flyers coming out, winning that game. And then I think to your previous point about Stolarz, we might see him twice, at least against the Senators in the back-to-back, like Bill said, because you want to see Mason on his game for the Pens. Then we play the Maple Leafs, too. They brought up a bunch of their young guns, and they don't suck as much as they used to, but they still kind of suck. So we might see Stolarz in that game as well.
Yeah, I would agree. That'd be probably the other ideal start for him, especially with the back-to-back. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you're thinking like maybe 2 starts the rest of the way for him?
Yeah, and probably 2, maybe 1, but it really depends on how Mason's playing and the point scheme where the Flyers are headed up in the playoffs moving forward. Because if the Flyers can pull ahead of Detroit a little bit, you might see Stolarz a little more to give Mason some rest going into the playoffs.
And out of those 3 games that we got coming up this week, how many points do you think we get?
Objectively, I would like to say at least 4, but realistically, I think we're only going to get 3. I think we get 1 win and probably an overtime loss and a regulation loss this week. But the Flyers do have a lot of home games coming up. If they win at least 4 of the remaining 7, their playoff chances are looking good.
Yeah, that'd be great. They could win the 4 of the 7. I would say probably 4 points. I'm with you on Washington. I think they can go and win that game. I think they'll win against Ottawa too. But Pittsburgh, like I said, they've been lights out. They scare me right now. So I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but 4 points would be great.
Well, as we've seen from past history, Bill is never wrong. So
That's not true.
just mark it down. Mark it down. It's a W. Just mark it down. All right. So any final thoughts before we wrap this show up tonight?
Final thoughts. We just, continue to just live in Shane Gostisbehere's world. It's his world. We're just living in it. He's killing it. We're just here along for the ride. So moving forward, Ghost has been kind of, on the schneid. He's going to be killing it coming up. I expect big things from Ghost and hopefully a Calder win.
That'd be great. I mean, him win the Calder. My final thoughts, I just want to keep seeing their physical play with Braden Shen's been very physical. I want to see Radko Gudas keep hitting, but, stay on the right side of the ball. And I just want to keep seeing them rallying around each other. And this whole stretch has shown that. They've been a great team, working together and playing for each other and their coach and their fan base.
Yeah. The only thing I really have to say is this. When the idea was brought to bring Flyers to the Bitter Birds, when we first started, we were trying to think of topics because we thought the Flyers were pretty much out of the playoff hunt. And here we are, just like a month later, and we're doing pretty much playoff shows, recapping these games. I mean, we had a topic that we're going to do about, not having a goalie since Ron Hextall, that sort of thing. Talking about Ilya Bryzgalov, how he was a failure. But here we are. We didn't even need that topic. We're recapping games because we're in the hunt. We are in the hunt, and it's amazing. Ghost Bear, bitches. It's all him. He's amazing. He is awesome. The greatest thing ever. And that is all I have to say about that. So, for Bill Leifholtz, Caleb Weiler, I'm Adrian Fedke. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night, all 1 hour and 10 minutes of it. We are out. Later.